This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Joining me now is John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and chief Razorback tweeter. Any victory for the Razorbacks, it's got to come on the thumbs of John Brummett. You did a good job this weekend, I guess. You coached them to victory.
Well, I rooted them to victory with some frustration along the way, but that's the story of Razorback fanhood. It was a good victory. It's good to beat that mad Trumper Mike Leach. Sam Pittman's now 2-0 against that guy, and it was a nice victory. And I think I don't want to go into too much detail about the football, but had they lost that, they would have been bound most likely for last place in their division, and it would have looked like improvement, but more of the same with some improvement. Now 6-3, going to a bowl game with a chance maybe to win 2 more. It was a key victory for the Hogs.
All right, John Brummett with
my analysis.
With the oracle of Little Rock there, of Hillcrest, I suppose. All right, let's talk. We've got a lot on the political agenda. Let's begin late in the week. Last week, the infrastructure package passes the House. So now Joe Biden's got a victory to declare, and it even had some bipartisan appeal. Does this repair some of the damage that has been done that you and I have talked about over the last several weeks of Democrats not getting things done, Joe Biden not getting things done?
Does it repair? Too early to say, but it's stopped any bleeding, and it provided a foundation for rebuilding after that total devastation of the Virginia outcome days before. It bears mentioning one more time that they could have done this in August. They ended up doing last Friday night what they could have done in August when the bill came over from the Senate, which gave it 69 votes, including the votes of 19 Republicans. They could have passed an infrastructure bill. They could have made governors happy. They could have had governors extolling all this money going to be spent in their states. They could have had, McAuliffe in Virginia, touting what his party had accomplished for Virginia. They would have appeared less ridiculously lurching to the left by tying a perfectly popular infrastructure bill to a vague, vast spending bill. That was a major factor in what happened to them, and they could have done it then, and they did it gloriously, in my opinion, because I'm getting of this school of thought that a bipartisan victory at this point is more important to the country's psyche than a real policy advancement, because I don't think we've got enough votes to have major policy advancements. So it would have made, I think, a difference, and it at least is a shifting of gears by the Democrats. Biden eventually on Friday did what he should have done months ago, rather than saying, "Would y'all Democrats get with me? We need to pass this agenda, these 2 bills." I believe it's pretty clear he sent the word, please give me this infrastructure bill tonight. We need to spike this ball and then move to the other. Could have done it months ago, would have been much smarter. As I don't know if we were telling them, but I know good and well I've been telling them, and I don't like to say I told you so, but I told you so.
Well, and then you've got the contradictory message of pretty much in the same news cycle, the OSHA regulations come out, which are have not been well received by the business community and are, I guess, feed into the narrative that, again, Joe Biden and the Democrats are doing something
overreach.
So have they stepped on their message in that respect with the OSHA vaccine mandates?
I so hope not that tempers or affects my objective analysis. I mean, it's a simple thing. OSHA exists for workplace safety. This is a workplace safety issue. Everybody's complained about OSHA for generations. Let them keep complaining. And it's not a full mandate on a vaccine. There are options for you. You can do this testing, and it's all designed to have an active government attend to our public health. And I am mystified. So many things I think I understand. My last statement, so certain and profound. What this aversion is, I simply am out of that loop. I don't get it. But I think something tells me this, that the mixed message is not symmetrically mixed. I think doing something on infrastructure and getting a governor even like Asa Hutchinson to praise the passage so that we can see some work getting done out here to make our bridges safer is better than the vaccine mandate is bad. But we shall see about that, and I will readily admit I don't get the growing vaccine resistance. I don't understand the Aaron Rodgerses of the world and can't but pretend that I do.
All right, you mentioned
He's
earlier.
He's the Green Bay quarterback who didn't get vaccinated. Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the Virginia race last week. There was also races, I think, in New Jersey. There were a couple of others around the country as well. But that Virginia race was the seminal one that everybody was watching in terms of what does this say or portend for the midterms in 2022. A year away is an eternity in politics, as you well know. Is this just a wake-up call, like some smelling salts for the Democrats, or do you think they are on the ropes and Republicans have the momentum and it is inevitable what's going to happen in 2022?
My view is the latter. They're on the ropes and it is inevitable. That's just how I read it. Granted, strong pronouncements about something that's going to happen in a year. Joe Biden beat Trump nearly 55-45 in Virginia a year ago. Exit polls this Tuesday showed his disapproval rating in Virginia 56, and 53% of the respondents said the Democratic Party was too liberal. So yeah, I mean, that all can change, but I believe right now, I see it more as a likely harbinger, because I think Democrats will be sort of fatigued, lacking, and the swing voters will lack the motivation to get rid of Trump, of whom they disapproved, and will find the Democrats more to disapprove of, and will continue this seesaw. It will not be the first time, it would not be the first time, that a Democratic president of either party suffered a loss of majorities in the immediate midterms. I was hoping against hope that the Democrats would do better, but the lesson of Virginia seems to be, and I'm thinking it still will apply in 12 months, is that the Democrats lurched too far left, tried to outreach their mandate, which was mainly to take Trump's place and try to behave competently. And beyond that, not just on the tax issues and this trouble they've had in Washington, but it's obvious that you get outside the cities, get outside the high academic areas. This is a center-right country, not just in white rural America, but now in white suburban America, where people have kind of a white backlash, and the Democrats want to blame it on racism and race, and to say we're not teaching critical race theory in our schools, but the people are recoiling against what they think is a new general feeling that we're just deciding suddenly that America is all bad, rather than a country with a bad history that has worked hard to overcome it and had some success. And I think people are recoiling against that, and the Democrats are in a position of getting defeated 3-1 when you get into the rural areas and losing suburbs that delivered in Atlanta and Phoenix areas the victories over Trump. That's why I'm pessimistic for the Democrats' chances, and not clear within 12 months how all that turns around.
Republican messaging greater than Democratic messaging is the bottom line on all of that. So,
well, that's part of it, but yes, but Democratic positions are positions with which Democrats get laden by the impractical progressive movement. I'll just say this: Minneapolis, a liberal Democratic city, 58-42 defeated what has come to be known absurdly as defund the police. If you're carrying around defund the police in any remote way in your message, even if it's one forced on you, you're in trouble. And that's I think that's a very clear lesson. I gave a talk the other night, and I told these people that a seminal moment for me was when I was halfway through a column trying to defend defund the police as not really what these people meant and how we needed to reform the police. And I just hit the kill button halfway through and said, I can't do it. That's just not, that's no way to try to engage readers or engage in public discussion. So yeah, that's messaging, but it's a position that the culture and this cultural change has forced on Democrats that they're having a hard time figuring out how to handle. We need police to be better, but anything that smacks of defund the police, those three words never should be used in contemporary American politics.
I'll still go back to Republican messaging greater than Democratic messaging. It's still
okay.
Messaging.
Okay. Yes, but positions enter into the messaging a little.
Yes.
Positions forced on them. But yes. Your synopsis is absolutely correct.
Last question for you. I got instant analysis from you a week ago Friday on legislative redistricting maps. You've had more time to digest that. Do you have some greater insight to share on those legislative maps in terms of anything that has surprised you or anything to kind of watch for as we move into next year's elections?
I think generally it's an incumbent protection map. They also protected a lot of Democrats to avoid too much appearance of harsh partisanship. I think it's going to be sort of a non-event, except the one thing that interests me greatly that I wrote about Sunday that is telling. Last week at this time, or some hours later, I said, I guess the top headline is going to be that they have created the first majority Latino House district. And the Board of Apportionment, Hutchinson, Thurston, Rutledge, had announced that each of them in the remarks had praised the process for producing this majority Latino district. Since that time, we've seen that majority, that Latinos in that neighborhood, many of them have said, and I quoted two in Sunday's column, is saying, we'll get a majority Latino district or two or three inevitably because that's the way the population is going. But right now, we think we'd rather have the Democratic woman, Megan Godfrey, who was redistricted out of that district, than to have a majority Latino district, particularly one that may be majority Latino in terms of population, but not in terms of voters when you count children and those not documented. And that's interesting to me. And there's some interest in maybe trying to revisit that. I don't think they can, because anytime you change that district, you're probably going to change some Republican incumbents district in a way that will mess up the whole deal. But that's been interesting. And it's like these three Republicans announced a shortcut to appealing to Latinos. We've given you a majority Latino district. And some in that district are saying, we're less interested in that than we already been well represented by a Democratic state representative. That's sort of a classic study in contemporary partisan political positioning and differences.
I'll say this as we wrap up. Republicans hold their supermajorities in both chambers of the Arkansas legislature.
Not only, Roby, do they hold them, they expand them. This will allow them to, they've already got super majorities. These will become more so. And it's that, and it's what I said before, it's just like in rural Virginia. Look at rural Virginia. Trump got 65% of the vote against Biden in some of these rural Virginia counties. This guy Youngkin got 75%. That's growing. The Democrats aren't cutting, and that's Arkansas. Arkansas is a white, rural, conservative Trump state, and we're getting ready to just see more wholesale overtaking by almost oppressively sized Republican majorities.
All right, he's John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always appreciate your takes.
Thanks, buddy.
And
Bye-bye.
dog.